devastating, obviously, outcome from the judiciary. I guess, how do you sort of go into this week's game knowing that Verrills is out for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, so Ben will come in. He's played a lot of games in the middle of the year, obviously making his debut. I think it was around round 5 for us. So he comes in. To be honest, I don't really want to go into what happened, on grading and then the match panel there deciding that that's worth 2 games. That's what they've decided. So we'll just move on.
Robert, it's Jaleesa here from Channel 10. You said earlier in the season there was some times where you didn't think going to the judiciary was worth it because it was a roll of the dice. Can you just take us through what your thought process was with this one?
Pretty simply, we didn't think it was a grade 2. That's we believed in our case, and we didn't believe it was a grade 2, but it wasn't to be.
Do you still think it's a roll of the dice?
Sorry? Say that again, Jaleesa.
Do you still think it's a bit of a roll of the dice?
I don't remember saying that. Maybe, we've decided to go to the judiciary when we believe in our case, and we've won, more than any other team this year in the judiciary because they, the gradings were different to what we thought and what the panel thought. And we believe the same in this one, but we didn't win that. So, we've just got to move on. That's it's disappointing. It's disappointing for Sam. He's the only one to get a grade 2 and hasn't had. He's just a clean player and hasn't had any incidents. So, but anyway, that's where we're at. Day before a game, we'll move on to tomorrow night.
Robert, Ben Marshy gets an opportunity. He's been one of the stories of the season. What kind of growth have you seen in him both as a person and on the field? Yeah,
so Ben, he came in. It was good to get him back to the club from playing junior reps with a lot of the guys that he'd played with there through the 20s and coming down from Bundaberg with him and Jesse, his brother, as twins. And then having him back at North Sydney and watching him play, and then the tenacity which he plays with, it was, it's been quite an easy choice to get him in there. And then just the way that he attacked the games, the way that he decided to go after the games when he got his opportunity. He's a footy guy, he's played a lot of footy. So, we knew the scenario going into Tuesday night and both of them were ready to play, and now Benny gets his opportunity.
He seems like a pretty popular character amongst the squad. I mean, you saw him, he scored his first try in round 25, and there was probably most of the players on the field really got around him and celebrated.
Yeah, he's a really popular guy. Just he's a real positive guy. He sort of takes his time to help the other guys in and around training, and he's always upbeat and positive. A lot of those sort of hooker roles are. They're, I know it sounds funny, but they're a bit like wicket keepers in cricket. They set the tone for how everybody else around them is. I think, it's a really important role, and Benny's got a great hooker temperament.
Robbo, I know you're always reluctant about self-praise, and you've achieved a lot in the game. Where does this year stand personally for you, given what you actually have done and the adversity that you faced?
Yeah, I'll focus on tomorrow night, Dean. I'll, reflect at the end of the season. I'm concentrating on playing Manly and preparing for Manly.
It has been a remarkable effort to be in week 2 though, Robbo, even as we talk now.
I think it justifies our effort and fight that we've put into this year and how players have worked really hard to when they've got the opportunity. And so, we've fought really hard and we'll continue to do that. That's our focus tomorrow night.
Robbo, yesterday Victor Radley said that with all the adversity that you've gone through, every win that you have, he feels like it's almost sweeter at times. Do you feel that as well?
I haven't really thought of it like that. I feel, to be honest, I'm really purely focused on getting the most out of our team each week, and I know that it's varied each week. It's been very different each week. But no matter what the scenario, I like the fact that guys have decided to ultimately go after their role or their part in the team, even the guys off the field, but to attack the games the way that we have, and then also to execute at the end of games. We've been very good in the last 20 minutes of games as well to finish off some teams, and we need to be really good in that area over the next few weeks.
Trent, does that preparation you were talking about before, instead of talking about legacies already, does that include a game plan to shut down Tommy Trbojevic? And if so, did Bellamy provide you with a blueprint last week?
We always have our game plan. We know our style of defence and how we want to play. So that's up to us to deliver tomorrow night.
Do you remember, Robbo, a more hyped one-on-one showdown between two players? Especially considering they probably don't actually come in contact that often, but just the way this 1v1 battle's been simmering all year, it feels like. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk this year, and that's a credit to both of them, the way that they've played this year. The way both of those guys have gone after the season, the way that Tom came in and played those origin moments like he did, especially that game one. And so there's been, and there should be, they're exciting players to watch. They go about it in slightly different ways, but, it's always a pleasure to watch both of them play the game. Have you spent more time preparing for Tom, than what you might other players? Is he someone that you dedicate more time to each week than what you would if he playing other teams each week? No, I don't. Look, that's lazy coaching if you don't prepare well for players and also opposition. We understand where their strengths are, but it's also we know where we want to defend and how we want to attack them in defence. And that's a part of that is obviously his role, but also many other roles in the team. So, you don't want to narrow your focus too much on one guy and not the rest. It's been business as usual for us in preparing for opposition.
So how would you, Will Swanton at the Australian, sorry, Trent. But I know it sounds a bit simplistic, but how would you, as a bloke and as a player and as a captain, how would you describe James's value to the club, if that makes sense?
He's been invaluable. He's been he's the ultimate reason why we're in the position that we are at the moment, along with many other people, but he's been the driving force behind our team, and many people have played roles around that, but he's our captain and leader, and he's led from the front.
Has he been inspired by Tom's? I remember at the start of the Origin series, and I remember James's first media kind of thing, and all the talk was about how good's Tommy Turbo, that kind of thing, and he handled that with a lot of maturity in it. But do you think Tom's rise has also helped, James perhaps keep rising?
No, I don't think so. I've been asked about this before, and James sets his own tone and always has, and so he'll continue to do that. He doesn't need motivation from outside forces to play better or to get the best out of himself. There's a huge internal drive there.
Robert, can you talk about Teddy's progression as a leader? Was it always something that you saw in him, or has it sort of developed since you've known him, and especially this year when it was just sort of thrust upon him with the retirements of your other co-captains? Yeah, it's a credit to Ted, and he obviously was. He's always been a leader, at the Tigers and also here, but he's also been that individual athlete. So to be able to continue, we see that. Can I go back to cricket again? I've done that once already with the wicketkeeper analogy, but you see captains that are great batsmen and amazing batsmen become captains, and sometimes their form slips away,
Or, with some players like Steve Smith, it went through the roof. It ended up making him greater. Whereas, if Teddy was a cricketer, the captaincy's allowed him to continue and then even rise as a player. The weight of that hasn't affected his individual game either, and that's a credit to him.
Trent, does the change at hooker impact at all how you use Sam Walker? He's only got a couple of minutes these last couple of games. Will his role change at all as he try to cover the loss of Sam?
Yeah, we'll see, Nick. I probably don't want to go into that. I'll leave my interchange model for tomorrow night.
Robert, is this the type of game, and given the conversation around Turbo, is this the kind of game that really fires up Teddy in these sort of challenges, one-on-one challenges?
No, as I said, Sarah, Teddy's not a riser and faller based on opposition or moment. I think you've seen him play in what people would say just regular season round games against teams that are outside of the top 8, inside of the top 8, and he attacks the game. I think I can see, obviously, I'm getting a lot of questions around Teddy and Turbo, and that's the great story out of this game. That's why most people will switch on tomorrow night outside of fans of both teams, is to watch these two play. But the beauty of Teddy is that I keep going back to it, his ability to get the most out of himself. If he was playing for the Camden Rams at Kirkham Oval on a Sunday afternoon, with the cars on the hill, he would attack the game. He wouldn't need to know how many people are coming through the gates or that the television was on. And that's some of the unique things about Teddy. Stars are stars because they've got great internal motivation, but they also thrive off the external feedback. And everyone's different. Teddy's one of those ones that his internal drive is high, and therefore he's so consistent.
I just wanted to ask about obviously how Sam Barrels is doing. Obviously, I think the club was quite confident that he would get off, given his he was a clean skin, as he said at the start of this. Are the boys getting around him? He must be just devastated by the result. Yeah,
he's extremely flat. It was hard for him to understand how, the way that he plays the game, and the way that he's played the game for a long period of time, and with other circumstances within that tackle that caused that, and for him to be missing 2 games and 2 finals games for that, it's been extremely flattening for him, and the guys have supported him well in that.
I guess, how do you help him as a coach there, Robbo, in boosting his spirits? It's a very hard one.
Yeah, you can't falsify that. You can't trick it up. You just got to get on with it. You got to get back, and his role is now to help Benny and the other guys in the team prepare for tomorrow night. That's basically it.
Okay, was it always Benny? Like, from the moment you saw that Sam was charged, was it always Benny was your thoughts backup, or was there a thought about whether you'd sort of play around with your halves and your hooker there would maybe lock you going to number 9?
No, it was always Benny. Always Benny.
There's a timely addition to the bench in Nat Butcher as well. I mean, what does he sort of bring, particularly considering that, some of the other members of the bench are fairly young and rookies?
Yeah, Nat's experience, that tradesman-like style of play. So he's definitely played in big moments for us. And it was just good to get some experience back on the bench. And he can hold his brother's hand as well, which will be nice.
We sort of speak about a lot of the narrative, as we've spoken about, has been Teddy v Turbo, but there's a really rich history between the two clubs, dating back probably to the 70s, where there were players going back and forth in grand finals, and then we speak about how the 2013 grand final was the last finals meeting. I mean, does that ever cross your mind throughout the week, being able to continue that rivalry?
No, not at all. I think it's great. There is a huge history that goes back to obviously the 70s with guys like Crusher going back and forth, and Bobby Fulton, and Kerry Packer's involvement at the two clubs, and there's an incredible history there, and big games, and right through to the modern era, and it's amazing. That's what. So when people see those two jerseys on the field, a lot of supporters and see that and feel that, and that's awesome. But for our prep, as a team, that's different. There's almost a coldness about how we want to perform and what we need to do for this week. But we also want to add to that history as well.
Hey Trent, Zach Bailey here. Just a quick one. We saw a photo of Joey Martin training yesterday across the Roosters social media. I guess we all thought a couple of weeks ago when he was injured there's no chance he would be back. Can you give an update on his recovery, please?
Yeah, he's going well. He's obviously he puts on weight easily, Joey, so we need to get him out there running. No, the beautiful man is slightly less beautiful, but he's keeping fit and healthy. The face is getting back down. It's not completely normal yet, but it's getting there, and I think he would have had a coloured bib on that we can't go close to him at all. So yeah, it's good to get him back out there and get him training again, at least in some form.
I know your focus is fully tomorrow night and he won't play, but is he any chance of playing next week or the week after if you progress?
It's pretty bad, that injury, so yeah, it's just it's good having him around.